I'd love you to tell me a little bit about the Senate, because something I saw recently. So I have a lot of family near Venice, and so one of the last times I was there, touring the Doge's palace, I was reading that it seemed like Jefferson spent a lot of time in France and Europe before
Hmm.
drafting the Constitution. And I went and did some googling afterwards, and it seemed he got a lot of the idea for it's either the Senate or the House of Representatives from the Venice, the Serenissima. I think it was a it's called I think the Chamber of 100, or whatever, the Room of 100. And so I was wondering how the Senate in the U.S. is connected to slavery enough that you would want to abolish it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that it's connected to slavery as a reason to abolish it. It's that it so tips the balance of power in favor of land instead of people, right? I mean, again, those,
Okay.
I'm using 20 states, but I don't know if that's accurate. So everybody go look it up for yourself. Those 20 states have the same number of people as California, right? Or take Wyoming, which maybe has 500,000 people in it compared to whatever California is, 30 million. I don't know, but like
Right.
the idea that those two people, those two senators from Wyoming, get the same representation as the two senators from California is nuts. But that's the way it was designed, and it was designed to give states, not people, power. That's what the Senate is designed to do. And one of the reasons
Hmm.
states wanted power was to ensure that slavery couldn't be overturned. Slavery was unpopular at the time, or not popular enough to be sustained. There was a majority of the country was against it. So the South, the Southern colonies, the South would not have joined the Union if they didn't have the power to keep it going. And you can see this in a
Uh,
couple different places in the Constitution. The Constitution goes out of its way, in fact, to not use the word slave. Um, it also, for instance, treats slaves as 3/5 of a person
right.
for the purposes of electoral power. And I mean that is, I mean, so disgusting. But it's an exam. It's a really good. It explains the problem that we're talking about right now, right? So essentially, the slave states wanted slaves to count as people for the purposes of electoral power. So they wanted them to be
Hmm.
people when it came to saying you get this many representatives, because then they would get more representatives, right?
Right.
Um, but if they're people, then they're not property and they can't be owned. So they're like, well, what do we do? And they come up with this 3/5 compromise.